with our co-host All Man Publishing and Frank Fiore, frankfiore.com. Frank, how are you? Fridays with Frank, our host. I know you're excited about our guest.
Oh yeah, I want to know more about your building a skiff or something, a sailboat, and then did you actually attempt to go around the world, or you did and you ran into all these problems that you were talking about? I'd love to hear about them.
All
Uh,
right. So J.R. Russell, thank you for stopping by. The book, your debut memoir, Unmoored, Coming of Age in Troubled Waters. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Neil. And thanks, Frank, for having me. Yes, in 1969, when I was 7, my family started to build a 40-foot gaff rig schooner in the vineyards in Livermore, California. And almost 10 years later, when I was 16, we left on what we had planned to be a around the world cruise. But when you read the book, you realize there were a lot of things that went wrong during the trip. But we did make it all the way to Trinidad. So,
Well, what would be the gives an example of the craziest event that happened during that trip?
well, when we were sailing off the coast of Mexico, we ran into what the Mexicans or Spanish refer to as a very big chubasco, which in other words is a hurricane. And so we almost lost the boat during that hurricane trying to get into the harbor of Zihuatanejo.
Wow.
Your
Okay.
family is very gutsy.
Well, yes, and you have to remember this was 1969. So, when you read on YouTube all these influencers that are sailing with their GPSs and their beacons, and all of this stuff where they, like recently there was just an article where a boat sank in the middle of the Atlantic and they threw out a beacon and they were rescued in 9 hours. But in 1969, you had celestial navigation and you had a sextant,
Oh my goodness.
or as my father used to say, he navigated with 1 foot on the beach. So we did a lot of cruising where we could see the land.
No, it's interesting when you talk about those challenges. Why did you write the book? What made you want to write it?
Um, well, first of all, a lot of people have asked me, why did it take 50 years to write the book? And when you're writing a memoir, I mean, one of the most important things, if you want to write a good memoir, is that you need a lot of reflection, and usually that comes with years. And I just felt like it wasn't the right time until now. And also, I have a when I started the book, my daughter was a little younger than the age I was when I left on the trip. She's 18 now. And so I wanted her, and I'm an older parent, so I wanted her to kind of see that, mom wasn't a dinosaur and that I actually was a teen at one point. And I just, when I would talk about this story over the years, always 100% people would say, you got to write about this is a great story, this is a great family story, you got to write about it. So in 2019 I sat down and I wrote for a year, 7 days a week, and that was kind of the beginning of my process of writing my book.
Wow. I'm very, very interesting. Go ahead, Frank, the next question.
Well, I'm just fascinated that the family would take that kind of a risk and do and go around the world. What you said give us another. I know we looked at your bio there, but give us another interesting example on your trip that you and your family did.
Well, so the book, is obviously it's not only a travel log, it's not only a sailing story, but it's also a coming of age story, and it really focuses on my relationship with my father, who was, well, my sisters and I used to nickname him Captain Ahab from Moby Dick. So from Moby Dick fame. So there was an incident in Yalapa, which is one of the ports north of Acapulco. And Yalapa is famous for their bay of sea snakes that they have, which, I mean, we didn't even know when we sailed that there were such a thing as snakes in the water. And so I was the one that I was very good taking people to shore in the dinghy. We had a really light dinghy because it was my father, mother, and my 3 sisters and myself. And my other 2 sisters were teens, and my youngest sister was 4. So we had to have a boat that was very light that we could pull up. But the problem with having a very light dinghy is that it's easy to broach it as you're coming into shore. So I took my dad into shore one day, and the waves were really strange and coming into this little landing, and we broached the boat, and we both ended up in the water with the sea snakes. And so when we got to shore, we both swam as fast as we could. My father made me go back out and retrieve the dinghy with the sea snakes. So that was the kind of, captain he was. And, during that time, you have to remember, a lot of people say, why didn't you, especially my daughter, why didn't you refuse him? But you didn't do that. I mean, I grew up, my parents were, products of the 50s, 40s and 50s. And so, if the captain said, go out and get the boat, you swam out and got the boat. So
Totally. You
my,
just did it.
my wife is a sailor.
Oh,
Loved to sail, and he couldn't afford a mooring, and that's exactly what he did. He anchored the sailboat out, and he have to swim there and back in order to get to a sailboat. So yeah, I know about that story.
Awesome. All right, let's so basically some of your background's part of the book as well, right? You were a commercial actor and model.
That actually, I'm working on my second book right now, and that encompasses, the material in my second book. This Unmoored takes place, it's a 2-year period from ages 16 to 18. And I wrote it first person present tense so that I wanted to take my readers along on the trip with me as if it were really happening right then and there. And, from the book tour that I did in California, a lot of my readers, I feel like I was really successful in doing that, because a lot of them felt like, and especially people who have never stepped on board a boat before, they were like, oh my God, I took the trip with you.
Awesome. Go ahead. Paul, question you have for JR.
Yeah. Hi, JR.
Hi, Paul.
Is your book Unmoored written from the youthful perspective, or is it written from the after you've had time to process it sort of thing?
So that's a really good question. I decided, as I said before, I wrote it from my 16-year-old self. And a lot of people have said, how did you get back into your head as a 16-year-old? And it's really not that hard. If you once I put myself back there, and especially because this was an experience for our family that was something that we've always talked at family events. Every time our families get together, we talk about it. Our kids hate it because my sisters and I talk about the trip. And so it's always been really fresh in my mind. And I relied on journals. I always had a personal journal that I kept, and my father's notes, and he sent a lot of letters. So it was really easy to do that. And I felt it was really important to tell the story from, a 16-year-old's perspective.
Awesome. Okay. All right. Best place people can find information on you, purchase your book. Where can they go?
They can go anywhere. It's on all the major Amazon, Barnes and Noble, in your independent bookstore. They can go to my website and order it from there, which is www.jrrussell, that's ROESSL.com. And they can also go to my Substack, And I write a newsletter that gives my readers a glimpse of the new things that I'm writing in my second book, and things that didn't make it into Unmoored, which a lot of readers have asked about. And that's jrrussell.substack.com.
All right. Thanks again. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. That was a special simulcast of the Neil Haley Show. And